Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of F1TW, the series where I go through everything that's happened in F1 in the last week or so. So, we are going through the Belgian Grand Prix this weekend, following on from last week's wet British Grand Prix. Before the weekend, Christian Horner was sacked from RedBull and replaced by VCARB's team principal, Laurent Mekis. VCARB have promoted Alain Permain from racing director to team principal. In FP1, Oscar Piastri got the fastest lap with a 1:42.022, and not much else happened. But in SQ1, coming through Stavolo, Kimi Antonelli had a huge spin which ruined his lap and knocked him out of SQ1. The gravel sent onto the track from that incident also ruined his teammate George Russell's lap. Thankfully, George still made it through. Kimi Antonelli, on the other hand, not so fortunate. At the Nouveau Chicane, Lewis Hamilton spun, ruining his lap and knocking himself out of SQ1. Oscar Piastri got the fastest lap with a 1:41.769, and the drivers eliminated were Albon, Hülkenberg, Hamilton, Colapinto and Antonelli. In SQ2, Lando and Norris got the fastest lap with a 1:41.412, and the drivers eliminated were Lawson, Tsunoda, Russell, Alonso and Stroll. But in SQ3, Oscar crosses the line to easily take pole by 4/10. So the grid order for the top 10 is Piastri, Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, Ocon, Sainz, Behrman, Gasly, Hadjar and Bortoletto. In the sprint, on lap 1, on the Camel Straight, Max Verstappen overtakes Oscar Piastri for the lead, aided by the slipstream. And on that same straight, Charles Leclerc overtakes Lando Norris for P3, also aided by slipstream. But on lap 4, at also the Camel Straight, Lando Norris finally manages to get back past Leclerc, aided by DRS this time. From lap 10 all the way to the end of the sprint, you had this awesome shot of the two McLarens trying to chase the RedBull of Max Verstappen, but never managing to overtake, similar to the Austria sprint last year. On lap 15, at the end of the sprint, Max Verstappen crosses the line and secures a first sprint win of the season. The finishing order was Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Ocon, Sainz, Behrman, Hadjar, Bortoletto, Lawson, Tsunoda, Russell, Stroll, Alonso, Hamilton, Albon, Antonelli, Hülkenberg, Colapinto and Gasly. Anyway, in Q1, coming out of the pits, Nico Hülkenberg got stuck between Lance Stroll and Carlos. He thinks he's free to pull away into the fast lane, but realises he's not when he snaps off a piece of his front wing on Lance Stroll's Aston Martin. Lewis's lap that would have seen him through to Q2 was deleted, knocking him out in Q1 for track limits at Raidillon. Lando Norris got the fastest lap with a 1:41.010, and the drivers eliminated were Hamilton, Colapinto, Antonelli, Alonso and Stroll. In Q2, Oscar Piastri got the fastest lap with a 1:40.626, which was actually faster than his lap in Q3. The drivers eliminated were Ocon, Behrman, Gasly, Hülkenberg and Sainz. In Q3, at the end of the session, no one could improve ahead of Lando Norris' first laps, so he took pole. The grid order for the top 10 was Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, Verstappen, Albon, Russell, Tsunoda, Hadjar, Lawson and Bortoletto. Now we're into the race. The cars were lined up on the grid, ready for the formation lap. And it was decided that it would be behind the safety car, which meant there would be at least one extra lap behind the safety car before the race actually started. But then, during the formation lap, the whole race was red flagged due to visibility issues. While back on the grid, it was decided that the second formation lap would also be behind the safety car. And during the formation lap and first safety car lap, Lando Norris was checking what his grid box would be like, for example, if it was wet, dry, what it was like, to see if there would be an even amount of water. He found that his side was more wet than the other side, so he was pushing for a rolling start, while many other drivers were just yelling to get the race started as soon as possible with the grid start. But eventually on lap 4, Lando got his way and the safety car lights went out for a rolling start. On lap 5 at turn 1, Lando had a small slide on exit which compromised his run through Eau Rouge and Raidillon, allowing Oscar Piastri to overtake him on the Camel Straight. On lap 8 at the Nouveau Chicane, Lewis dives to the inside to overtake Carlos Sainz for P16. So very much a midfield battle going on there between the Ferrari and the Williams. Around lap 11 and lap 12, some of the cars chose to pit for the dry tyres. Most notably, Lewis Hamilton pitted for slicks and gained quite a few positions because of it. On lap 13, when Lando came into the pits, he got a bad stop of 3.5 seconds, which gave him an even harder time of trying to catch Oscar, because Piastri had pitted lap 12 and he had to pit lap 13 because they were too close and they would have double stacked otherwise. On lap 20, Nico Hülkenberg was told to swap positions with his teammate behind him. On lap 26, at Puon, Lando and Norris had a snap of oversteer and went off the track, losing a second and obviously getting a strike for track limits. On lap 35 at Les Sources, Lando locked up, losing another 6/10. Because he qualified so far down, Lewis Hamilton had no trouble overtaking backmarkers and midfield cars all the way up to P7. In the end, this earned him driver of the day. In the last few laps, Oscar Piastri's tyres were wearing out and Lando was catching up by a lot. Due to his earlier mistakes, he never managed to actually catch up. And on lap 34 at Les Sources, Lando locked up again to end any chance of a fight for the lead. So, on lap 44, at the end of the race, Oscar Piastri crosses the line to take a win that puts him 16 points ahead of Lando in the Drivers' Championship. Isaac Hadjar was the only driver to be lapped. Kimi Antonelli finished with the fastest lap of 1:44.861, and the finishing order was Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen, Russell, Albon, Hamilton, Lawson, Bortoletto, Gasly, Behrman, Hülkenberg, Tsunoda, Stroll, Ocon, Antonelli, Alonso, Sainz, Colapinto and Hadjar. Surprisingly, there was only one DNF that entire weekend, which was Gasly in the sprint. Not sure what happened to him, couldn't find any answers. In summary, the gap between the two championship protagonists has doubled from 8 to 16. McLaren are now more than double Ferrari's points in the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari are second. No clue how, but Ferrari are second. But McLaren have double their points. And now, in news, this is a big one. Max Verstappen has announced that he will be staying at Red Bull for 2026. Now, this is great news if you're George Russell, because he knows that he'll keep his seat for another year. But this is bad for any Red Bull Junior driver, including Tsunoda, who now has to wait at least another year to get the Red Bull seat, or at least the number 1 Red Bull seat in Yuki's case. So that's everything. Hope you've enjoyed. Subscribe, please, and yeah, goodbye.
Norris is the greatest, the almighty Lamb.